Today on Ask Money Talk, we answer a question we're hearing about business succession planning. Pierre Letourneau, business succession advisor at TD Wealth, joins us now to weigh in. And here's the question for you. My brother and I run a business together. Do we need a shareholders agreement?
Short answer is yes. I would strongly recommend that you have a shareholders agreement. Maybe I'll start off by just outlining what a shareholders agreement is. It's a document that lays out the rights, obligations, and responsibilities of all the stakeholders in the corporation or shareholders in the corporation. So for many business owners, the business itself is one of the most important assets or most valuable assets that they own. So you want to protect that. And that's what the shareholders agreement provides you. So I actually recently met with clients that very successful business, 4 brothers that were managing a successful business. They took over from their parents, but they really were responsible for most of the growth of the business. So it's a business that was worth maybe $30 million. They had no shareholders agreement. And 4 brothers, you can imagine there was quite a bit of gap. There was maybe a 15-year gap. So they didn't really have any mechanism to deal with scenarios that are out of their control, like disability, death, or divorce. And so we strongly recommended that they get a shareholders agreement to dictate how to deal with those scenarios. Oftentimes, I think clients look at a shareholders agreement and see that, or think that maybe by putting this document in place, they're preparing a document for a business breakup. Well, in some ways that's true, but at the same time, I think you're better off to look at it as a backup plan. We don't want to necessarily rely on this agreement, but we want to have something in place that we've deemed as fair to deal with these potential scenarios.
Let's talk about some potential scenarios, things that are possible future conflicts that could have either been mitigated or avoided altogether if you did have a shareholders agreement.
So one of the common scenarios that I see that leads to conflict is timing on exit, right? You may have a business partner that wants to retire before the other. So if that's the case, well, if they don't have a plan in place or an agreement that sort of dictates how that's going to be handled, that could lead to a lot of conflict, right? So most shareholders agreement, or all shareholders agreement, will have what we call a buy-sell agreement that will dictate when a shareholder is able to sell, who they're able to sell to. And so if someone wants to exit, they can rely on that provision to be able to exit the business. Tied to that, there's also usually a valuation mechanism, because that's another potential conflict, is sort of a valuation gap. One person thinks the business is worth X, the other thinks it's worth more or less. And so having an agreement in place or a mechanism in place that says this is how we're going to value the business if one of us wants to exit is important and could avoid some conflict. Another scenario where I see some potential conflict is a scenario where one partner may be more active in the business and the second partner may be a bit more passive. And it may not always be like that. Maybe they start off by both being active, but naturally one becomes more passive. Well, that could lead to a lot of conflict. And so your shareholders agreement could there's 2 ways it can handle that. So having a required participation in the business, so it's a requirement that you need to participate a certain amount, or a mechanism that separates a return on labor from a return on investment. So if you're participating more in the business, then you're entitled to more of a salary. And then if you're only passive, then you're not entitled to salary, you're only entitled to a dividend. That's a distribution of part of the profits, right? So having that laid out, especially if that relationship is evolving through time, is very important. Now, these agreements are very complex. So it's very important to work with an advisor that has an expertise in that area to really lay out an agreement that's suited for your particular needs.
Fascinating stuff. Thanks for breaking that down for us, Pierre.
My pleasure.
That was Pierre Letourneau, business succession advisor with TD Wealth. And if you have a question for us, send it to moneytalk@td.com.